How are you?
Greetings, indeed.
Everything alright?
Everything's fine, Hey, man needs to take a piss, see?
Lol.
And coffee. So, there is that. Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
The first sub of the night. Now, shortly... hang on. Now, shortly, everyone, I am actually going to be turning off all of my alerts for the duration of the chat with TheYamiks.
And the same for
me. Obviously, we don't want that being constantly interrupted, so alerts will go back on after that. And then, I don't know what Yamiks' plan afterwards is, but my plan is to
make a video. Make a juicy video. That's my plan.
Okay. I'm going to be going through the lore that's been uncovered about the Guardians today, because anyone that was here last night, we was wrong, big time. Old man Morday, thank you very much for the raid. How you doing? How you doing? Welcome along, everybody. We're doing a thing where we're arguing with Yamiks this evening, and we're going to be arguing about Horizons. We're going to, as the Horizon series has finished,
more or less arguing. I think we are going to sort of agree on a couple of things, that's for sure.
Yeah, there are things we will agree on, as always, but there's going to be a lot more that we disagree on, likely.
Oh, well, we'll see.
So, load of new stuff's coming out about the Guardians crew, basically. Lots of very new, interesting lore, but we'll be going through that later. As said, to start with, what we're going to do is very shortly, Yamiks and I are going to move aside to a locked room, giggity go.
Oh my!
And we're going to, as I said, sit and discuss about all of the Horizons update, because there's actually quite a lot to go through. I was looking at this earlier, and there's a lot to go through, isn't there?
Oh my, yes.
The game has changed a lot since, it was 1.5? Was it 1.6?
I don't even know. I joined at the end of 2.1, so...
See, I joined 1.2. It was during 1.2 that I first started playing. And the amount the game's changed since then is astonishing. And Horizons is a big part of that. So yeah, we're going to be going through that and talking about all of that good jazz and stuff and things. And then yeah, like I said, after that we'll be talking about lore. So at this point, Yamiks, we've said hello to everyone. We've been polite.
More or less, yeah. So again, no alerts on our side, so sorry for perhaps ignoring or not responding, but, well, if you want to have a good old, I don't know, spunk fest, I suppose, we better get on it without, any extras, I suppose.
I'll drag us into the no entry room, and we'll begin.
User left your channel.
Bye. Goodbye.
You were moved.
There we go.
And there we go.
A room that no one else will come in. And at this point, as said, all the alerts are muted. They will still come up on screen, but they're muted.
Indeed.
So
all I had is,
no
or rather, all I have on my screen is, what was it called? Give me a sec. I got this thing open. Where is that? Mitterrand Hollow. So I'm currently sitting there. If anyone's weirded out, yes.
Mitterrand's always nice.
So there you go. Those that perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, no, Mitterrand's always lovely. It's always a nice place to go and sit and relax. And also, for some reason, my audio thing stopped working. I have no idea why, but I don't have a readout of what song's playing this evening, because Spotify isn't outputting to snaz. Yay! Technical issues. Right, ignoring that. So, to start with, Yamiks, I thought a good thing to do would be to start...
Okay.
well, a good place to start would be to sort of look at where the game was before Horizons.
Oh boy. Okay, so I probably should start, since I don't really have that much to say about the game when, before Horizons. Now, okay, so I joined the game around, let's see, April or so. Oh wait, no, I think it was April. I need to look up that Frontier store when I did actually purchase the game. But it was back in them days when you had to pay 50 quid for the fucking thing. But, yeah. Now, I joined the game, I played on and off after realizing how much grind there was, and I disappeared for a while. So, I didn't return, yeah, as I said, on Horizon's launch. It was slightly after, or actually not slightly, it was decently later after the Horizons came out. And the first thing that actually kind of put me off on the game was when they released Power Play. I remember. I pretty much started playing, or was playing already at the time, and yeah, Power Play was a huge pain in the ass, and I've said a lot of things about it, but since I made a video and that was my, you know, sort of a therapeutic piece, I can lay it to rest. To some degree, regardless, I suppose. So, I won't be beating that horse that much today, at least, so.
Yeah, like, Power Play's broken. It doesn't work. It's not going to work for a very long time. They need to kill it and start again.
Yeah.
There's a very good idea at the core of Power Play. Yeah? The idea of a turn-based strategy game essentially taking place within an MMO like Elite is pretty awesome. But it's not been done very well. Let's be brutally honest about that.
It's no good.
So from my side, funnily enough, I started playing at a very similar time. I started playing during 1.2, and my first major update was the 1.3 patch that introduced Power Play. And I have to admit, yeah, Power Play wasn't what we hoped it was going to be. Should we say that?
Power Play wasn't where it should be.
It could have been
It's a very
better.
mild description as to how I would put it.
Yeah. After that, the following updates. I'm trying to think. What was 1.4?
Oh God. Okay, so, give me a sec. I'll pull up wiki.
I was about to say, let's get the wiki up at this point.
So I remember one of the fucking things was the ship update, but again,
Ships was the one that launched alongside Horizons. I'm pretty
okay.
sure
Oh God.
there was
Okay. So
one.
we have shit tons of things. Right. Let's see. So 1 point something. Yeah. So the first one's released. The second one's the community goals. That is 1.1. The 1.2 is Wings. 1.3. Where are you? Power Play. Yeah, that came in 5th June. So yeah, there's that. After that, what do we got? 1. Yeah, that's 1.4, and then Horizons comes out. That's 2.0. And 1.5 is ships.
1.5 is ships. Yeah. So.
There you go. A little history, I suppose, for all of you watching.
Yeah, of course, 1.4. I was trying to think, why can't I remember 1.4? Because 1.4 was the update that brought CQC in.
1.4 CQC? Oh, Jesus, motherfucking
CQC.
Christ. Okay,
I think CQC came in on 1.4.
Oh, yeah, 1.4 CQC, right.
Yeah. It was
what
also
a well-spent development time, isn't
release. It was the Xbox release as well.
Okay. So that's, yeah.
Although, interestingly, 1.4 also introduced Has-Res and compromised nav beacons.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's interesting how from that, the longest lasting impacts have been those two things rather than CQC, with obviously CQC being the headline feature. Has-Reses and compromised nav beacons are quite a big thing that you know, if you play
Compromise
especially
nav
a
beacons
combat
I've never
style
used, so for me it
Oh,
was
they're-
Haz-res, pretty much.
compromise nav beacons are great. You could just sit there and wait for your prey to come to you. It's fun. You go into a Haz-res with cargo and just and then the next, as I said, the next major update was Horizons, with the ships update alongside it. So the ships update introduced the Asp Scout, the Viper 4, the Fed Corvette, the Imperial Cutter, and the Killback. So obviously that was quite a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
But at that point, Horizons dropped, and a huge amount changed. I would say the biggest thing that happened with Horizons...
There were only two
overall,
things that really changed the game. Most other things were just...
no, the big
as
thing,
usual stuff, really.
The big thing was that they added a 64-bit client.
Oh yeah, that too.
Long running, yeah, that was the big thing. Adding the 64-bit client.
Keep forgetting it completely. Damn.
Yeah. No, that was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Adding in a 64-bit client allowed them to do a lot of things that they weren't able to do on a 32-bit client.
After all,
just that simple.
Yeah, memory limitation of the 32-bit, unfortunately, is what it is. And considering that actually, games started moving to 64-bit, let's see, oh my, starting already from 2008 or 7 when, you know, Crysis came out, when the whole 64-bit push started back then, and holy crap.
But it was, I think they switched to 64-bit at around the right time from a commercial point of view, because the majority of people had 64.
It's a bit late, to be honest.
Not from a commercial point of view. Before then, there were a lot of people who didn't, and at the time, I remember a lot of people complaining that they had to update their systems to run a 64-bit. That's why it makes sense. Yeah, from a commercial point of view, it made sense to switch at that point. Because the number of people who had the systems capable of running it at that point just skyrocketed. You know, basically any PC from that point on that's been bought is capable of running a 64-bit game. Yeah, so...
Pretty much.
And, you know, I personally know someone who plays this game on a notebook with integrated graphics.
That poor soul.
I know. But people do it. It can
for me, for my little piece of shit laptop, 600 something buck laptop, it's basically 20 frames. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But obviously the headline feature of Horizons wasn't the 64-bit thing. That's not what they sold it on.
No.
What they sold Horizons on was the opening up of planetary landings.
Yeah, the planetary landings was the big one, and okay, I need to open up more stuff, but there was one more little thing that they added. Let's see if I can find it in that whole list of crap. Yeah, landings and SRVs, I'd say, but yeah, but mostly landings. Yeah, basically
surface settlements. Some little things. They added in bobbleheads for the first time at that point.
Oh fuck me.
They added in things like missions being able to be retrieved in space. Massive amount of new mission types. Like lots and lots and lots of new mission types.
Yeah.
The emergency rescue NPCs, which was a nice little, just a tiny little touch, but I quite like that.
Oh right, so if you run out of fuel, I think they do pop in.
Yeah.
If you're very lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just a nice little. They're a nice little touch, you know. And also, materials and synthesis was obviously added at that point. And synthesis was something that I think had, to be honest with you, synthesis had its biggest impact in two places: PvP and exploration.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only impact it had, really.
Yeah, I agree.
So obviously.
most players use synthesis from, like, you might use it if you're in an SRV to top up your
Oh yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I think
Right.
synthesis was mainly put in there just for SRV and then expanded afterwards. But that's just my personal perception, of course.
But it's a good system. There's nothing wrong with it as a system.
Yeah.
And as far as exploration goes, it was literally a game changer. It opened up areas of the galaxy that weren't available before then.
Yeah,
you could suddenly get to places that you couldn't get to before.
That extra little boost before Neutron Star update, yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And
Overall,
so
I must say that 2.0, at least when you look at stats on, for example, Steam, to this day, I think the launch of Horizons has yielded the biggest influx of players for Elite Dangerous, and you can't deny that. At least on the Steam, of course, and when it comes down to the whole game, well, devs have the stats, and I don't think that information is publicly available, but...
No, it's not.
Yeah, but at least you have
Unfortunately.
that little thing, so...
Steam's a good judge of trends rather than exact numbers.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Steam will reflect the average trend of players. So you can see the rises and dips, but it won't give you the actual player number because, and I'm speaking as one of these people, most people who play Elite Dangerous don't boot off of Steam.
Yeah, since I bought the game before, yeah, I don't do that myself, so...
There's an awful lot of the player base that don't boot the game through Steam, and that's before you consider Xbox and PlayStation players.
Oh, that's the...
Yeah, and
So-
the game hasn't done badly on either, like...
That was
The game has done well enough that both
Yeah.
Microsoft and Sony have officially licensed HOTASes from Thrustmaster.
Ah, yes, right. I don't
Yeah,
look at
that-
that because I don't use HOTAS. I'm just a keyboard and mouse master race, person.
Lol. No, HOTAS and pedal master race. HOTAS and pedal master race.
Right.
Yep.
Go pedal away.
Lol, I will. I can steer around this star I'm about to drop into with my feet. It's great.
Good job on that, then.
Right, it's lovely. I'm just sort of chilling. I'm sitting back, leaning back in my chair, and
Well,
my
I
ship's
have a
just
3D
steering around the star.
mouse with whom I can do the same things. Meh.
But no,
But I don't use it.
Horizons was, on the surface of it, really great. So
yeah,
weirdly for us, I'm gonna start the bitching.
Okay.
The
for it.
single biggest issue introduced by Horizons was what, do you think, Yamiks?
Let's see. Massive frame rate issues on the planet's surfaces, the buggy planet surface side, well, not really material grind, I guess, but it introduced
none
materials.
of these were the worst issues. None of these were the worst issues.
2.0. Honestly,
Yeah.
since I didn't really join at that time, I only
sure.
view 2.0 as absolutely positive thing. So
Okay,
that's
so-
I don't have that perspective. I don't really know what happened back then, so I can't say.
Biggest
So,
problem it introduced
eh?
was the issues that we've had with instancing ever since.
Oh god. So okay, that explains a couple of things, I suppose. Yeah.
Again, speaking from experience, before 2.0, I was regularly involved in 16 on 16 wing fights. Pre-organised, and you did have to do the old wing in trick, and it wasn't simple to set up, but the instance would hold, with 32 players shooting at each other. You cannot do that to this day.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore. The netcode and the coding itself is just weird. And as you can see, actually on my screen, especially, still Planet Surface Generation is flawed, let's just say so.
It's not perfect, no.
It's yeah. That's what it is.
But the thing with this is that the positive is that Frontier have been improving the instancing with every patch since. Instancing has gotten better since that patch.
Well, they
planet-side
broke it
instancing-
to high hell, and now they're slowly getting back to.
Yep,
that
slowly
point,
getting back
so-
to it. And one day, hopefully, we can get back to the glory days of pre 2.0, when we could get 32 players in an instance.
One of these days.
But for me, of all of the things that have happened in the Horizon series, that's the biggest problem. Of everything that was introduced, the biggest problem is that it broke instancing, and, you know, I'm not an idiot. Coding and creating a computer game is difficult.
It's fun, especially netcode, people. If you ever try to code something, oh, you're gonna have fun with netcode if you ever do so. Thank God I have never had to do that. But I know the pain. I know the pain. I've tried.
Yeah. It's not easy, and I doubt it's something where I don't think they even changed their netcode. I suspect that
there are small fixes, but no big reworks.
Yeah, I think something else started impacting on the netcode for some reason. And
there are multiple things every new edition and so on and so forth. So it's really you can't pin it to any single thing. It's just a whole lot of shit. So.
Yep, and that's been the biggest issue with the Horizon series from start to finish with me. The fact that by the end of Horizons, we aren't back to where we were instancing beforehand.
Yeah.
Not great. It's not great.
Yeah.
So, but
it works with maybe 4 people, but that's about it.
Other than that, Horizons, I remember the first time I went down to a planet. Yeah? I remember the first time I landed on a planet and deployed an SRV and drove around in it and bounced it off of things and that sort of thing. It was an amazing moment in Elite Dangerous. It was a moment that I will never forget. Because it did open up an entirely new area of the game. And it opened up entirely new things to do. And it was brilliant. It was wonderful. It was a real eye-opener for Elite Dangerous and a real moment of they really can live up to what they're aiming to do. They obviously have ludicrously high ambitions for this game.
Yeah.
And I think Horizons has shown that no, it's not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Anyone that tries to say that the Horizons series or Elite Dangerous in and of itself is in any way perfect is a moron. Frontier would be the first people to disagree with them. You know, they know there are areas of the game that could be so much better.
No
and a lot of that
is perfect.
Yeah, exactly, right? And a lot of that just comes down to resources. What resources do you spend on improving what parts of the game? That's a lot of what we're seeing with Beyond. They've quite obviously decided that now is the time to spend the resources on going back and revisiting a lot of this stuff and doing a lot of the things that they quite clearly want to do. Squadrons are going to be a great example of it. Oh, really? What would you say then?
That's the thing. You're saying they're going back to things. That implies going back to old features and either reworking or fixing them. And then that's what... There have been a couple of improvements. Sure, but
we've only
I haven't
had one
seen
patch.
massive changes or reworks. So that's the thing. And there are things that I would expect immediately massive reworks.
Hang on, you'd say the engineering and crime and punishment reworks aren't massive reworks?
Oh boy, crime and punishment. Now that one's an interesting one.
I'm not asking if you agree with what they have done. I'm asking if you're trying to claim it's not a massive rework.
Engineering, no. Engineering, it's small additions here and there, and it does feel, you know, different. But in general, it's really not.
Really?
For me, it's not massive. It's a decent chunk, but it's not a huge one.
Really?
Yes, that's how I see it, of course.
So, well, okay, talk me through why. I have to know why. I need more information to argue with.
So basically, from a programmer's perspective, of course, I'm currently looking at, you know, the rolling thing still is basically the same code with changes on, you know, how they alter, you know, or rather how they improve your ship or something like that. There are a couple of lines extra and so on and so forth. Animations, yes, that'd be the, I guess, biggest visual change, I suppose. But again, it's just visuals, really. I can't say much that would be a big change. When it comes down to experimentals, they're about the same. Also, the engineering in its core, the balance is still not done. But okay, fine. One thing at a time. Fair enough. So, again, from the coder's perspective, I don't know, maybe there are huge changes, but I just don't feel like it. Maybe it's my lack of knowledge, of course. I just see little alterations here and there in the code, or, you know, potential alterations, because, you know, I don't have access or anything to that sort of a level. But, yeah, it's this and that change, so it works slightly differently. That's the thing. For me, massive would be, well, you know, complete change as to how they are used and what is being used and how things happen, sort of. To be honest, it's hard to go in detail exactly, but maybe you get the point.
I see what you're saying, but I do still disagree.
From gameplay perspective, yes, there are changes. Still not quite massive,
no, and this is where I'm looking at it from.
Yeah,
like, from gameplay changes.
In gameplay changes, there are bigger ones. Yeah.
I don't think. I disagree. I think the biggest change in this update is the engineering update, and I think
comparably, I'd say Planet One would be bigger for me.
Long term, I don't think so. I honestly think that engineering is the way they've changed engineering, and the fact that it is now a system that... The key thing for me... Sorry, I'll start that again. The key thing for me with the change to engineering is the time required to have a god-rolled ship.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that, honestly. So we're currently already just jumping everything.
Yeah, we are.
Horizons.
We're jumping ahead. We're going too far ahead. Sorry.
Enough of... Yeah, I was just thinking, okay, enough of ranting on your or mine part. Let's just go through everything. And
let's actually go through Horizon.
Right, yeah.
So obviously, the initial launch was really good. There were issues.
It wasn't good by stats alone. I personally can tell you, it was massive for this game.
Oh, yeah.
It was massive. That's the thing. This is the only time I really won't go hyperbolic and just say either it's horribly bad or horribly good. But, well, it was massive in you know, the influx alone. So that stat alone just sort of signifies at least the impact of such an update.
Yeah.
A little aside before we move on to the next update. Here's the thing, again, back in the day, I was still doing my own little things, and again, the whole I'm a programmer part comes out, but here's the thing, the game as it is coded, the whole galaxy is rather mesmerizing to me to just witness as to how it's created and so on and so forth, you know, having billions upon billions of stars, and while the game only takes up... I think it's, what, 50 to 70 gigabytes, I think. I might be wrong there.
It's even that big. I don't think it's that big.
That's the thing. Recently, I did had to move the Elite from one disc to another, so it was something like 50-something. So somebody in the chat probably will...
your screenshots or something like that?
No, that's without screenshots and so on.
Oh, okay. I wonder why that is. I'm gonna look now. Carry on, but I'm gonna look.
But yeah, I don't remember exact numbers. The download itself took something like 38, just for the game to be installed and then unpacked, probably more and more. But anyways, the fact is, the fact that you have so many, you know, star systems and so on and so forth being packed into relatively small size does make me question, you know, how do they do this? Because it's, you know, it's basically like a magician's trick, you know. How do you manage to put in such a massive, expansive thing around and still have even more so when it comes down to just planets, stations, and everything else? Of course, there are reused assets all over the place, but the more important thing is, rather, at least for me, the more interesting part is how the planets are saved. Because if planets, for example, were to be individual maps, you know, just individual maps on a hard drive, on your hard drive, typically, then this game would just simply take up hundreds upon hundreds of terabytes. Yeah. So obviously it's you know, generated to a degree, and some things are taken, some things are, you know, left out, and so on and so forth. Obviously this is the case, but even so, this sort of aspect to see how great the game, or rather how expansive the game can look and feel by just even, okay, fine, 38 point whatever gigabytes might be a lot, but if you look at how much there is in this game, or rather how much you can travel, see, and so on and so forth, without noticing the fact that it's, you know, reused assets, it's impressive. At least to me, I don't know, it's just, I constantly think how it's made. So, again, that's why I consider the Horizons thing to be a really rather interesting thing to look at least for myself, of course. So, yeah, good job, devs. Impressive work.
I agree, as I'm smashing into a star, because I was trying to find out how big my install file was.
Your issues,
I have arrived where I need to be there. I agree on that one. And it gets more impressive when you look at the talks that they've had with the people who helped them design Stellar Forge and everything. The amount of science and nerdity that's gone into creating the galaxy that we fly around is utterly absurd. It actually is.
It's not absurd. It's an interesting structure. It's not like it's not done not been done before. It's not been done in such a way exactly. Of course, you know, there are no similar games like this one, obviously. But it's interesting, you know, what techniques this game employs. At least, again, I'm just, you know, going in technical details. So again, that's why I basically love talking with devs rather than PR. PR side of the thing, so yeah, that's just me nerding out, basically.
Oh no, so, I find it fascinating. I mean, we spoke to quite a few of the devs when we were at Frexpo, didn't we, you and I?
I did actually talk with a couple of them, yeah, but it wasn't exactly the people that worked on this particular thing. It was more or less the people that joined right after 2.1 or 2.2, something like that. The timeline, at least, as far as I understood. Of course, there were a couple of them, like, you know, Sandy, who I did talk a little bit with, you know, who's been around for a lot longer. So, yeah, but that was a very short conversation nonetheless. And we talked about power play only, more or less, so yeah.
Talking to Adam, like, to be honest, that was something that like, something that's very evidently true of Frontier. Frontier, the stuff seem to stay put. They don't go anywhere, which isn't very normal in the games industry.
AAA industry is basically like this. You hire, you know, the team to create the thing, and to avoid basically paying either their security, not security, but insurances and stuff like that, they are being let go after a certain period before the mandatory time limit pops up, or after the game releases, they are basically also let go just so they don't have to pay royalties as well. So this is the issue with the AAA, you know, AAA as they say, gaming or games, you know, the publishers and developers as well in the industry. So yeah, Elite is a bit different. It's not the only sort of a game, of course, that has its you know, in-house stuff and so on and so forth, but oh sure, it's not the only example, of course.
So yeah. And I know we're getting a little off topic here, but I want to ask
again, and I'm just ranting on.
A little, yeah, no, but it's interesting, Yamiks. It genuinely is. So go with it.
It's Friday, so everyone just enjoy our little talks
enjoy the random conversation. Yep.
And we do read the chats, so again.
Yeah, we are. Again, we're reading the chat, even if we're not responding to everything, because obviously we don't want to interrupt the flow of conversation and stuff.
We have also, ourselves for that, basically.
While we have a quick break, I am going to say thank you to Coffee for the raid. Really do appreciate it, dude. How you doing? He also said hello to you as well, Yamiks.
Aha, yes, right. Coffee. Nice.
Coffee's wonderful.
Yeah, in any case.
So,
2.1?
something I'd like to ask you. Well, no. Before we move on, something I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Because you obviously look at things from a very different angle than I do. I look at it primarily as someone who
try
plays
to analyze
the
it from the surface and then delve into deeper, and so on and so forth. At least as far as I can, you know, realize things. Of course, I don't have, you know, the financial background, which is why I don't, you know, always go after the fucking microtransactions or the business model and whatnot else. But again, as much as my competence allows me to do things, I will.
Yeah. So the question I'd like to ask you then is about Cobra.
Which one?
The engine, not the ship.
Aha, yeah. I was about to just wonder. Cobra, the engine, Cobra, the Mark III, or Cobra the fourth?
The Mark IV Cobra we will be coming to. Don't you worry. But no, Cobra the game engine.
Yeah. Holy crap.
I'd like to know your thoughts on it.
Right.
From that side of things, like, you know, you obviously have a background in coding. You know your shit with that stuff. What do you think of the Cobra engine?
Right, so Cobra engine.
What do you think of what Frontier have achieved with it?
Right. Holy crap.
Sorry, I know it's a hard question.
No, DJ, if you look at the chats, you know pretty much what I'm sort of baffled about. But anyways, also I'm kind of killing my ship, so I guess I'm not gonna land. So give me a sec, I'll just punch properly. Anyways, right. So Cobra engine. Oh god. So first things first, as in Frontier Expo, I had the opportunity to talk with one of the devs. One of the guys that appear in streams. Again, I'm horrible with names, so sorry. I just forget these things. So yeah, the only person I really know is Sandy by face and voice. So and few others. But anyways, I talked with the coder, one of the lead coder. Yeah, I think it was the lead coder for the game. So yeah. I asked about the Cobra engine itself a little bit here and there, and right, well, let's see. So first things first, it's interesting the way the engine itself, I suppose, maybe not is built. It's rather how it sort of stores the whole you know, galaxy itself. It's in cube within a cube within a cube within a cube, essentially. Instead of tiles, it's just a cube within a cube. The same principle, only in 3D scale. Those with coding abilities or knowledge, at least in some way, will understand tiling and things like that. It's a rather simple concept, nonetheless. So, yeah, it's interesting. The engine itself, it's of course, absolutely not the best looking one. Absolutely not. No.
Oh, no. God, no.
If you really want to see a good looking engine, Star Citizen or Crysis, again, essentially Crytek would be the prettiest engine out there. Or
pretty
more
much,
realistic.
Yeah.
So that's indisputable, pretty much. Now,
however, the Cobra engine, I would argue to that from, and again, this isn't speaking from a coder's perspective, this is me talking from someone that looks at it from the outside in, basically. The Cobra engine seems more malleable and more usable in more situations.
It's impressive that they managed to make a game such like this one with an in-house engine. Those that don't know, Cobra engine is the engine that this game runs on, and Cobra engine is also Frontier Developments created. Well, their own in-house engine, so they have all the code, all the little bits and pieces that they can alter immediately. They don't need any license or... Now, I asked about this, whether or not this engine was built on something. And thus far, I think... I didn't get the answer on any particular single thing. I think they basically made it from scratch, which is kind of sketch in some ways. Maybe it wasn't a full answer, or maybe I just don't remember, but again, more or less everything is built by Frontier. There's thus far no other game or game engine that you can pin this thing to at all. Again, because they made it themselves. So that's nice.
Do you know which game they first used the Cobra engine on?
This game. I asked this very question and also got the answer. So, Cobra engine first used on Elite Dangerous.
No.
So, no.
Absolutely not. So,
No.
right. The current version of Cobra was first used on Elite Dangerous. Cobra has been the in-house engine for Frontier developments going back to at least Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I mixed up the very first version with the basically okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Again, these are the things that I don't need to write down and next time I talk with devs and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's easy to get,
but Cobra has been being updated ever since then. And so, when you look at the footage of The Outsider, Yamiks, that game is a Cobra engine game.
I haven't seen it, so...
You haven't seen The Outsider?
No, not that I can remember. Give me a sec, I'll Google it.
It was Frontier's game that got cancelled.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Okay, The Outsider cancelled. Yeah.
Here you go. Here's a link to a trailer, Yamiks.
Discord.
I'll put it in TeamSpeak. There you go. So I'm going to show this on my stream for everybody.
Okay.
I'm not going to worry about sound. I'm just going to put the trailer so that you can see the visuals. It's the visuals that are important. Yeah.
Oh God.
This
probably should do that myself as well. Shit.
Yeah. This is a PS2, PS3 era game, I believe, if I remember rightly. I cannot remember, because obviously it never saw the light of day.
I'll mute the sound, so again, yeah. Just give me a sec.
But this game also answers a lot of the things that people say Frontier aren't capable of doing. This game kind of shows that they are. Namely, the city that you see, and that includes, there's some brief internal bits that you see as well, is procedurally generated. This is a procedurally generated version of Washington, D.C.
Well, how do you mean procedurally generated?
They put in major landmarks and everything else was procedurally generated around it.
In that way, okay.
So it's genuine procedural generation. Now, this game never saw the light of day, nor is it ever worth asking Frontier about it, because they will not talk about it.
This was a license basis.
It was something to do with Sony. I don't know the full story, and I'm not going to try and talk about it particularly. I know it was something to do with Sony, that's all I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Frontier do not talk about that game. Right?
Interesting. Okay. The more you know, I suppose.
But, when you look at that, my God, Frontier can do procedurally generated cities and interiors, no problem. Yeah, that shows that. And they were able to do that a long while back. Yeah.
Well, Frontier does love its RNGs, I can tell you that much, without, looking anywhere else.
This goes back to 1984, doesn't it? David Braben and Ian Bell created the original Elite.
Yeah.
Yeah? And on that single floppy disk, they put a galaxy. Or 8 galaxies, actually. But, it was thousands of stars you could visit and all that sort of thing, yeah?
I mean...
It was it's no surprise that he's followed on that same path, is it? Let's be honest. That he's continued with procedural generation. And they are pretty damn good at it, let's be honest.
Which year was that, actually? For that Outsider thingamajig?
Good question. Yes. Don't know.
Don't know?
No, don't know. I don't know the exact date. I know it was PS3 era.
Okay, let me check. So Wiki says, what does Wiki says? The date I see is, or at least the first date I see is 2011.
Oh, cancelled in 2011 apparently. Yeah.
Okay, so for that time, seems like about the same as GTA. I don't know which one, 4th, I guess. So okay. From footage again,
hang on.
Hey.
Okay. So Revian is in chat. He's one of the people at Frontier, and has just said that was not actually procedurally generated. Really? I was told that it was, but I'm gonna believe you entirely.
So there we go.
I'm not going to argue with you.
DJ spreading lies.
I was told that it was procedurally generated. I apologise profusely. I really do.
No, overall, again, at least from that little trailer, all I can say is just another GTA clone, lookalike thingamajig with potentially typical, sort of a lookalike textures, gameplay, and everything else. Really, there was nothing that seemed unique.
There is actually something, from my point of view, that I find quite interesting about it. The main character was called Jameson, and seriously, the main character was called Jameson.
Seriously, David, what the hell?
No, it gets better. It gets better.
Oh, what else?
The story was a story entirely centered around conspiracy.
Fuck you, Frontier. There's just first make me a story that I give a fuck about, and then please put in the conspiracy.
I do care about this story. That's an argument we'll have another day. But yeah, in all honesty, that's utterly true.
Oh god. Okay. Well.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame that it got cancelled, because from everything that I've read about it, and everyone that I've spoken to a few journalists that seem to have had some time on with it, and
it's a third-person shooter that even to this day I don't care about. So yeah, I never cared much.
I would have liked to have played it. I really would have liked to have.
Give me a good FPS game, I'll love you. If not, I'm gonna hate you. That's about it.
So what for you? It's first person, not third.
That's the thing. First game I ever played was Duke Nukem 3D. That's the game I absolutely adore, which inspired me to basically, do something with my life, with gaming, and become basically a tech nerd or a PC person, and so on and so forth, So, yeah, it's the first thing that convinced me that, I really want to do something with games a lot, and over time became programmer and so on and so forth. So yeah, or at least learned about programmers.
Is the fact that Elite is first person one of the things that attracts you to it?
No, the main thing that actually attracted me to Elite Dangerous, I still remember that day, was I stumbled upon random videos on YouTube, as you usually do with these sorts of games, super niche games, and it was the level of detail you could interact with your ship, your stuff, just go over your systems and these little details, and it was working, and it was just working unlike anything else I played or seen before. And yeah, it was like, oh, I really want to. And Elite was my second game that I bought ever.
Oh wow.
So yeah, but then again, that was the second game I bought. The first one was Team Fortress, or something Team Fortress, and so on and so forth. So yeah. It I guess came at the same time I was paying attention, sort of, or started opening up, and yeah. So yeah. And
Interesting.
unfortunately, over time, it quickly made it clear that the game really wanted me to grind it, and I lost interest. So yeah. No, again, the bottom line is, yeah, it's just a high level of fidelity you can have with your ships and that sort of a thing that impressed me. And yeah, the gameplay also wasn't that bad and so on and so forth. So yeah, nice.
Interesting. Sorry, we've ended up on a real tangent there, but it was an interesting tangent nonetheless. But yeah, the point we were making was just that the Cobra engine is it's a bit clever because it's the same engine they use for Planet Coaster. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is, unlike, for example, Source or Unreal or CryEngine, all those, well, yeah, you know, those, even Unreal, for Unity, there's. Unlike those engines, this one hasn't had enough, let's just say, time to get its bug shots properly, I suppose. So you tend to encounter those typical random bugs for UI even to this day, and all the other little things that perhaps would have been already fixed in a bigger, you know, more used engine for more things. At least that's how I see it, of course, since, you know, again, Cobra is not used for that many games, and it hasn't had such a tremendous support like Unreal, definitely, like Source and things like those. So, yeah. At least that's how I see it, of course. I might be completely wrong.
The biggest advantage that they get from it, from the development of games side, is that if the developers need the engine to do something, they can go to the engine coders and say, we need it to do this. The biggest problem it gives them is that if you're working
it's hard to make a proper engine.
Well, and also, if you're working on Unity or you're working on Unreal,
if
you're trying to do something, the good chance is that somebody's already done it, and that you can at least get a framework or you know, a guide to how to do what you're trying to do with it. With Cobra, they have to work it out themselves. There is no pulling in code from elsewhere or anything like that. And so it gives them advantages and disadvantages. There's no denying that.
You have to have pretty smart people to, in the first place, make an engine from scratch in a reasonable time frame. Which, for Frontier, it already has happened, so, you know. Right, let's see, what else? You know what, let's just move on, otherwise we're gonna be just, you know...
Yeah. So what was the next major version? What was
2.1? The Engineers.
So it's been all nice and friendly so far, and I have a feeling that's about to end.
Oh fuck no! Yeah, it's the basically the bane of the whole game. Yeah, at least in my eyes. See, since you started the first 2.0, I'm gonna go off on this one. So first things first, I didn't you know, join as the 2.1 was you know, launching. I was joining it as the last couple of, I think it was a month before it closed and went for the 2.2. So at the end of the update, I joined in, or rather rejoined, and did the Sotis runs and all the other stuff. I still remember just going for Sotis runs while they, you know, are there. But oh, holy fuck, the first thing I remember when I came back was basically I jump in the game, I launch my ship, disconnected. I jump in Supercruise, disconnected. I jump to another system, disconnected. I join a wing, disconnected, just constantly. It was a horrible time. I was surprised just the state of the game back then. And of course, once the 2.2 dropped, it slightly started improving, but holy fuck, those last weeks were just horrendous. So yeah, anyways, 2.1, so it brought in engineers. Now, Oh boy, where to start? So I guess, so first things first, so how engineers worked back then. Essentially, engineers was supposedly a feature in the game that allowed you to change, or rather, alter your modules, select modules, of course, to do specific things more effectively at the cost of something else. That's at least the easy way to explain how engineering is supposed to be. Basically, tweaking. Think of car tuning or something like that. You can tune a car for rally, you can tune a car for drag and drift and so on and so forth. These sorts of little things, and that was basically the idea of, I presume at least, engineering. Just give a couple of options to improve things in the way user could potentially like to have. Now, this whole system essentially gave you several levels of improvements for a specific improvement, so there's that, but in general you needed materials to basically alternative currency that you can't swap or get anywhere else but as an additional mission reward or something, or just go out there and collect thing that you don't need cargo for. But engineering back then for bigger grade upgrades required at least one piece of commodity as well. And now that was retarded. And that was quickly just pulled out, I think. Sadly, devs, I think in the last post that they did about pulling out the whole commodity requirement from a certain engineering upgrades, was that they might put them in back, but since then, thankfully, they have not. Because first problem back then with the commodity requirement was that not only there were exploits and so on and so forth to allow you to roll, you know, grade 5s for grade 1s, so you didn't need all that, but nevertheless, the fact was that you've collected all your commodities with the ship that was best suited for that, and then you wanted to upgrade your ship that, well, you really collected all that stuff for. Problem was that most people kind of forgot to put in cargo racks when they wanted to transfer to a new ship. So what did they do? Well, they couldn't really do anything unless they had a friend that would hold that cargo for them. So either A, they toss out that cargo, or try and engineer that particular grade on already used ship that, well, they picked for cargo transporting rather than engineering. So that was a horrible issue and mostly was annoying just to do. Also the fact that collecting these commodities was hard enough already. Materials, of course, were also quite horrible to collect and still are. But that's another issue. Now, engineering. It dawned the new age of PvP. Also, partly dawned the new age of realizing how incompetent, or rather how rushed out things were made. Because, let's be honest, such things as healing beams, heat weaponry that later got nerfed, and of course shield boosters do signify, or at least tell me, that easily the system, or rather the upgrades from engineering, were really not ever balanced at all. They were put in, they were tested, whether or not they worked, but were they put in the game with the thought of, oh, does this make sense? Or will this not clash with anything else in the game? Or, you know, such things as, you know, simple surface level balance is basically done. That's about it. Everything else seemed to be not really done at all. That's how at least it seemed from the outside. And again, DJ will probably speak from the more of an insider's perspective, while I'm the outsider on this one. And again, as I said, healing beams, even to this day, they are quite overpowered. And shield boosters are also a huge problem, granting over 300% of improvement, while, for example, weapons can gain something like 50% of improvement in, you know, their efficiency and so on and so forth. So, where's the balance? Or why does it make sense? Not really. It doesn't make sense, at least to me. Because, well, again, I come from this perspective that, you know, I look at engineering as, again, for example, just simple tuning. You know, you don't expect to bring in your car in, you know, tuner's shop and expect it with existing parts to do 300% better than previously, right? Usually that doesn't happen. Usually it's maybe 10, 15, maybe 50% at best.
Yeah, I get what you meant.
So that's how I looked at engineering. 300% is just stupid. And the fact that healing beams also showed that no one really cared to test out the fact that they could out-heal the station's damage was stupid beyond belief. Also, SDC, thank you for that video, or rather Rinsler, because that was just juicy. Honestly, it was just juicy. Love it, to this day. So that's my perspective on engineering. Of course, there will be some other things that I'll be saying, but here's the word for DJ to retort, I suppose, if you have anything.
Well, it's interesting. Engineering, for me, represented the biggest opportunity for Elite Dangerous to provide people with ways to truly customize their ships, to make them their own. And it didn't go like that.
Yeah, it's tuning. Sure.
Yeah, it didn't go like that. And the system we ended up with...
It did go like that, but it went overboard quite heavily.
My problem's not how overboard it went. It's... My issue with it, and always was that... I have a thing with Elite Dangerous. I won't grind anything. Yeah? I do what I would like to do... And if that gets me things, it gets me things. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And eventually I get the stuff that I want. It took me nearly a year to get to an Anaconda. Because I will not grind. I just won't do it.
It took me a lot longer than that. Thank you, Sotis, by the way. But, okay, moving on.
No. And so, because of that, with engineering, it took me a very long time to build up the necessary materials to even moderately engineer my ship. That was my biggest issue with it. A lot of those issues are now dealt with, but at the time, it introduced, for me, what I felt like for the first time, a situation where it was a case of grind or be at a disadvantage. And...
it all comes down to balance at this point. The
yeah,
thing that you're talking, yeah, being a disadvantage,
now.
That's, yeah, again, it's...
Yeah.
Just, you're in disadvantage because it's not really balanced.
But on the other side of that, I was happy with the idea that people who were willing to put in the time got a better thing. I'm quite cool with that.
Poor Mini. Poor Mini.
The problem is that when it gets to the point that it genuinely did, by the end of when engineering finished, it got to the point where I was never, ever going to be able to get a top-level competitive ship. Even if I spent the time grinding.
Yep.
Who has the time to do 2,500 G5 dirty drive rolls? Well, some people do, but the vast majority of us do not have time to do that. Yeah? And it just wasn't realistic. And that's why I love the rebalance that's happened. But the other issue that it introduced, interestingly, was a wave of silent running. Silent running became massively overpowered, partly because of the heat thing. And the problem that it introduced was that all of the interesting combat meta that existed beforehand was replaced by silent running and multi-cannons. Which isn't very exciting. And that, for me, over and above everything else, that was the biggest problem with 2.1. That it killed PvP by making everyone have to silent run. It was actually to the point that at the Friday Night Fight Night event that we used to run, we actually banned silent running because it was just... that's all everyone was doing. So we banned it. And then it became interesting again. However, alongside that, engineering at its best, and this is where I do kind of disagree with you, suddenly allowed chips to do things that they weren't capable of before. They suddenly allowed chips to go to places they couldn't go to before. They suddenly allowed chips to...
Again, it's basically engineering allowed not very well balanced, or rather at all balanced modules to exist, which allowed doing, greater, faster, better things.
Yep.
So
and I'm quite cool with that. I personally think that's really cool. I think the fact that you can make ships do stuff they're not necessarily designed for, all that sort of thing, I enjoy. But I also do understand your point of view, where you're kind of like, well, I'm not going to get that much of a boost from an engineer, am I, realistically? But then on the other side of that, these aren't standard engineers. These are the 20 best engineers in the galaxy. There are trillions of people, and these are the best of them. Yeah?
You can polish a turd only so much.
I don't know.
That's the basic idea.
It would be an interesting experiment to hand some of the best engineers in the world a standard like Ford, and just be like, right.
It'd be absolutely wonderful, interesting thing to.
You have to keep all of the bits that are in there. You can only modify those, make it go as fast as you can, and just see what they did with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be genuinely interesting to see. But I get what you mean. But on the other side of it, I'm cool with the idea of... I see engineering as an endgame thing, where once you've gotten to the endgame, you can really hype up your ship. And I'm pretty cool with that. My problem with it was far more how long you had to spend that to get something that was realistically a top-level ship. Yeah? But I think that over time... engineering has proven to be, even though it's a feature I don't particularly like, I think it's a feature that's proven to be very successful.
Well, it's successful mostly because it gives outrageous results.
Yeah. Which is cool.
Essentially, engineering, as it is right now, as it was back then, well, it's been tweaked, obviously, but again, it's the same principle here still stands. There's a tremendous positive and there's a tremendous minus as well, horrible side of it. And, people will mostly, try and justify that horrible thing if they can get away with a massive, improvement. And that's how it is, often.
Yeah. Someone in your chat just made a really good point. Saying that some people have managed to put a V8 and an Austin Mini. That'd be like cramming 7A thrusters in an Eagle. And that is something that kind of bugs me with, to go on a slight tangent, but just something with the way that Elite works with its ships. If you look at Elite Dangerous's ship design philosophy, the ships are modular. Yeah? So each ship has modular compartments you can slot things in and out of. It kind of bugs me that you can't... That's split into slots rather than it being, right, this ship has X amount of space in it, use it as you will. Because if I want to build an Eagle that is nothing but a set of 7A thrusters, why not? How, I know in a way, and I get why they
bit like, I don't know,
6A frame shift on it.
7A, frame shift and so on. That would be the thing. So,
and it would fit with lore. It would fit with lore,
definitely.
Yeah. I do wonder if that was something that I think, in all honesty, that was decided as a balanced decision during the development.
I'd say definitely balancing, obviously. There's no other real reason, to be honest.
Yeah. So, But I also do wonder if that balance wasn't there, what would we end up with? what interesting things would you
It'd
would
be
you get,
hard to
you
balance
know?
in general. That's the issue.
Right.
It's just more stuff to balance. If you restrict things, I can completely understand why it's done.
Oh
And
yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Really, I don't. I would love to put in a massive FSD in my holder, aka something that should be renamed as a hopper, but never mind that.
Well, look, I
yeah,
mean,
you
can
know.
you imagine? Can you imagine someone
That
building a
would make,
courier so that it was just a courier and a huge hardpoint?
Sure.
The gun would be the same size as the ship.
Well, it could be. It could travel sub-light speeds at least. So. There is that, I guess.
But yeah, the idea that the idea of engineering, and it's weird talking about this now because as it was, I hated it, and as it is now, I really like it. I think the changes they made in Beyond have removed that, but at the
That's
time,
discussion for another time.
Yeah.
They
At the
all they
time-
did for the engineering right now is just make it more fair.
accessible.
Balance
Yep,
is
accessible
still
and fair.
no, it's still not very accessible because you need
Oh,
to
it
get
is.
all that material shit and yeah, I can
the
see easily a
material
lot of
trader
people
makes
just
that
not
a lot
being
easier.
willing to do that.
The
But that's
material
again
trader
another
makes that a
topic
lot
for another
easier.
time.
Yeah, but the thing is, with how it is now, it's great. With how it was then, it was my least favorite feature in Elite Dangerous, including power play. I disliked engineering more than I disliked power play.
Completely understandable.
Yep. The power play. The major benefit from power play, if you wanted the major benefits from it, were the modules. And realistically, you can get the modules.
That was
easy.
the only
if you're-
benefit, really.
Yeah. If that's something you want to do, you can get the modules easy. I don't see that as a problem. With the engineering, if you want engineering, you know, you want top level engineering on your ship, you are grinding. Plain and simple.
Of course, there's no other
Yep.
way.
Now that's not as true because of the way the mission reward structure has changed and the way the material trader works. But at the time, they weren't there. They weren't even a twinkle in the eye, and it was horrible.
Right now it's still grinding, but it's at least it's not random grinding. That's the difference.
So
Because
one
right
of my
now
chats,
the new system basically forces an average person that won't go for the god tier role results to grind more.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yes and no.
That's the difference right now.
No, because if you get if you do missions and you take the materials, you will build up a bank of stuff that you'll be able to trade away for the materials you want to do your upgrades.
It doesn't change the fact that in old system you could immediately roll grade 4 or 5.
Yeah, I see
in
what
the
you
new
mean.
system
Whereas
you
now
need to
you
build
have
it
to
up
do it
and
with
therefore spend a lot more materials, and therefore again, as I said, unless you're going for the god tier role material,
that's the important
module
thing. Everybody now has a god tier role in their grasp. Anyone that has an average amount of play available time for playing Elite Dangerous can get god rolled modules now.
which makes the system more fair, as I said. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the chief thing. But again, not for today. Talking about then, it was horrific.
Oh
and it
God,
was
the
it
whole
was the moment that-
unbalancedness, the whole RNGesus bullshittery, and of course the commodity, which was a big thing.
Yep.
So
It was for me the lowest moment in Elite Dangerous.
The thing is,
By
yeah,
a long way, that was my lowest moment in Elite Dangerous when Engineers came out. Because I was excited about it before, and then it came out, and I realised the amount of just pure grinding necessary to get what I wanted, and refused to do it. I just refused to do it. And average playtime, if you play for a couple of hours a night, over the course of a week. So talk about maybe 10 hours playtime.
Basically, consider a gameplay without focus on a specific thing. Because when you start focusing on something, you start, you just do things until you're done. Again, unfocused sort of a gameplay would be, you just go wherever your nose points and do whatever you like. And, if you arrive in the place and you can do it, you do it. If you can't, then you move on. And that's the thing. That's sort of average, I suppose. Take on it.
And if you look at the player hours that people put in, I would say about 10 hours a week is the average for this community. I'm not saying that is an average person. I'm saying that's the average roughly for this. Yeah, oh god, yeah. But I would imagine that's about average, because there will be people who can only play an hour a week. Obviously.
Of course, there are people that maybe play 2 hours a week in, entirety.
Oh, sorry, Yamiks, I just have to announce something really, really, really exciting very quickly. Everybody, no, even you'll like this. You know the lady that sang Let It Burn?
Yeah, that song, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Resurrection Fern. She's going to be on the front page of Twitch for the next 4 Wednesdays.
Okay.
Like, that's a pretty big deal.
For me, I never talked to the person, and have I? I don't think so.
I think...
Maybe just a random hi, that's about it.
Yeah.
So, again, it doesn't concern me or my audience at this point, I don't think.
No,
so
but I needed to tell my lot that, because that literally just came out on Twitter. I apologise. Carrying on.
You could have muted, just saying. Be professional.
I could have muted and not given the person that's one of my best friends in the world a bit more PR from announcing it.
Fair enough. The song was really good. So again, there's a song, Let It Burn, a parody. You can watch it, listen. It personally, it's a wonderful little piece. Anyways, moving on then. Back to the engineering. As I personally said, as I said in my little tirade back in the day when I made a video about engineering, essentially engineering is best and the worst thing that happened to Elite Dangerous. Best thing because of course you can make your ship into anything, and the worst thing because it's horribly grindy, because it's horribly unbalanced. But again, we suck it up because we want that golden shiny little bit in the septic tank, and we'll dig through all that shit to get it. At least those that are dedicated enough. Again, and engineering is still to this day really the worst thing that has happened to Elite Dangerous, because it introduced a horribly unbalanced gameplay. As I said, healing beams, shields, the massive amounts of shields, just no. Shield boosters go 300+% on the grade 5. From what they started. So technically you can get a fucking cutter from 2.4 thousand megajoules on maximum shields without engineering, up to 13,000 on prismatics. 13,000! That's fucking retarded! So yeah, that's a big issue. That's a big issue, and the problem is you can't change it anymore, because it wasn't tested, or well, wasn't not tested. It was basically a system that wasn't really thought through or, well, balanced properly. Now, all the issues that, these unbalanced modules introduce, and people are used to them, now you can't change them unless you are prepared to get a lot of backlash. Because I know personally, probably a lot of you, maybe all of you, will right now yell at devs just saying, no, don't nerf my shields, I love my shield tank, meh! But again, when it comes down to it, I personally want to see shield boosters being nerfed properly. Back to like maybe 50% improvement, so instead of, each shield booster at maximum being able to increase your shields, not by 56% at maximum, which is right now, plus something I think, but to maybe 32%. Which is a bit more than 50% from the bottom line. Again, it's that sort of a thing that engineering has introduced. Really good modules. But because people are really used to them right now, if you nerf them, you get a lot of backlash from stupid fucks that don't understand what balance is. Or how it should really, you know, make the game, more or less. And that's why we basically have, you know, these tremendous shield tanks just going around and just seal clubbing or doing what the fuck ever. So, I don't know, I can't really pity devs for this because they dug themselves into this fucking hole. They're at the fault in their own hands, sort of, so, yeah. So, I don't know. Essentially, the past issues are hard to change, and you can't really change too much, because, again, community does yell out quite loudly, and Frontier doesn't seem to be willing to, you know, change too much, otherwise, again, everyone's getting bombarded by these messages and so on and so forth, and it's not very fun working like that. I completely understand. So, yeah. I don't know what to do else. I personally would be able, well, or rather I am, right, actually, asking for a proper nerfing and rebalancing of all the engineering modules, but it won't happen.
Interestingly, I think you were there when Prime said about the fact that the shield strength.
Yeah, that's why I'm that's what I'm basing it on as well. I do take that what he said that
we
day.
know, yeah, we know
that's the thing.
Like
again, after Prime said that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a look a little bit closer. So the base shield engineering, aka just either thermal resistant base shields, the shields themselves, you can improve them about 50%. Okay, fine. Shield booster, you can boost up to 300% from its original value. And now that's where the whole shield tanking comes from. And when you think about it, okay, you have shield tanks and you have hull tanks. Technically, when you think about these things, two things being, fighting each other, these two types of ships being sent against each other, you'd think that, a shield tank would be, since it absorbs almost every damage piece, nothing gets through shields for normal, weapons and so on and so forth. So you'd think that, shields, yeah, they will protect against everything, but they won't perhaps be as much as hull tanks. On the other hand, hull tanks will be massive amount. You can cram how much rough and tough stuff you want on your ship, but you'll understand that somebody will get through my hull and start damaging my modules. So I'm taking that risk. And that's the thing, there's no balance when you actually have shields being a lot stronger than hull already is, so there's no real reason for you to go for hull tank at all. I want to see that, sort of a decision that a player has to make. Either you go with hull tank and risk module damage, or you go with shield tank and you risk it basically being annihilated as soon as your shields go down. That sort of a, choice is an interesting one to make. And makes sense in balancing wise, so, yeah. Again, that's... Again,
yeah, I do agree with you on that.
So
I agree with you that there's...
It's basic balance or game design 101.
They back themselves into a difficult corner with it, because as you say, if they take these shields away from people...
There's a backlash. If they don't do anything, well...
There's a backlash.
Well,
because there's people like us bitching about it.
The issue is, what I hate to see, or rather what devs are already doing, and Prime, I think it was Prime who announced this, they're looking into different ways to deal with shielding. So instead of actually going directly at the problem, they're going around it. And this is where Flechette launcher comes into play, and other weapons that are specifically designed to defeat shielding.
Things. Yeah, they're trying.
And that's not a very good way to balance things, if I'm honest. No, it's just not.
It can be, because it's the rock paper scissors way of doing it, isn't it?
But that's the original idea. Either you go for hull tank and risk module damage, or you go for shield tank and just risk being annihilated as soon as your shields go down.
That's just rock and shield. There's only two things there. Yeah, they're trying to introduce a third, I think.
Rock, paper, scissors doesn't imply 3 choices. It can imply tens of choices, of course.
Yeah, it can go a lot bigger than that. Yeah.
You get the point.
And I think we're starting to see that with things like the meta hulls. Yeah. I mean, I personally, my dream is to run an Anaconda, a pure armor Anaconda with only missiles as weapons. And for that to be a real usable build. It isn't. But that's what I want. But I also accept why it isn't. Yeah? It's not within the balance of the game at the moment. Maybe it will be at some point.
The new modules that they are adding are part of basically going around the problem, and instead of nerfing directly shields, it's just going around it. The current modules that they are introducing, part of them are basically made for that.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like seeing just arbitrarily putting in new tools and things specifically designed for these things. Okay, what happens...
Do you not think it makes sense within the universe, though? As an honest question, do you not think it makes sense within the universe?
And that's how they are going. Sure, fine, but we're playing a game. We're not playing, you know, real
Oh, no,
life.
I agree, yeah. I guess one of the things I will always do when I look at something that when they made a decision is, if it's not making the game less fun, does it make sense in universe? Now, if it's making the game less fun, I don't care what the decision is. A perfect example is the Mercian timers, yeah? Worst decision Frontier ever made, right? The Mercian timers are a prime example. Yes, of course they make sense in universe. Do they make sense from a gameplay and fun perspective? No, so they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, immersion timers, those that don't know, that's module transfer times and ship transfer times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
But with the weapons thing, shields are getting... Like, at the moment, in the Elite Dangerous Galaxy, if you look at it from an in-universe perspective, yeah? Elite Dangerous is going through a time at the moment of massive economic, social, and technological change. The introduction of the frameshift drive has changed society from the ground up. Yeah? Journeys that used to take weeks are now taking hours, minutes. That changes the entire galaxy. Naturally, because of that, technology is increasing at a rapid pace. One of the things that's happening is shields are becoming a boat ton stronger. To the point that standard weapons aren't really denting them. Now, do you continue trying to make bigger, badder versions of those weapons, if you exist in that universe, or do you look at ways of bypassing the shield? You look at ways of bypassing the shield, don't you? Especially with the Thargoids attacking us and doing just that. So, yes, I get what you're saying from certainly from a balance point of view, I really do. But then, looking at it from an in-universe point of view, the solution to better shields is guns that deal with shields better, right? And it's kind of it's finding the balance point between those two things, yeah. Where do you... Because if they do stuff that makes no sense in universe, it is jarring, and I know most of us despise the term immersion, but in all honesty, one of the great things about Elite is it is a very immersive experience. It is a very immersive game.
I don't know, I tend not to follow the trends of names and things, and just immersion in my mind is just, you know, what immersion's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
You know, you just feel that you're there, and that's how I have described the game.
Yeah, that is one thing Elite is very good at. You know, for God's sake, one of my best friends, Malik, he once fell asleep wearing his VR headset. Yeah, whilst orbiting a star. And he woke up the next morning and genuinely was going, "Why the fuck am I in a spaceship?" And then he realised that he was in VR and took his headset off. But because of that, there are certain things that, like, as an example, if one day you logged in and all of a sudden your shields were 10 times weaker, pretty jarring, isn't it? Well, why the fuck
of
are my shields
course,
10 times weaker?
the same thing again. The reason again, why are things not nerfed directly? You know, why is for example engineering being reworked, and also all the modules are allowed to be legacied. The same reason there is, because you know the system has been built like a shit house, complete just shit house. And now, to change it, you can't do it without heavy backlash. For example, there's Mini, those of you that know from the YouTubes, does a lot of engineering. He has spent tremendous amounts of engineering and time in the system. And so now, when he wakes up, once the 3.0 launches, for example, if the new system were to erase every engineered module, yeah, all of his time basically becomes meaningless. And you can't do that to a person. You just simply, you don't do that at all. And that's, again, yeah, okay, I'm just repeating myself at this point. Devs have dug themselves into a hole with the engineering heavily. That's the situation right now.
I think it was even pre-engineering. Shield boosters and the strength of shield boosters were what started this.
Yeah, on bigger ships, I suppose.
Yeah, on bigger ships. Yeah, think about what the cutter
was like. Now that I think of it, no, actually, shield boosters does make a little sense to me. I can technically explain how they work in some sort of in-game.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they make sense. But then so do all of the other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, the increasing shield strength, you can explain that very easily with just the fact that. Like, one of the things that the game really isn't good at telling everybody is the frameshift drive is, like, less than a decade old. I think someone worked out it was 7 years when we were talking about this the other day. It's less than a decade old. Up until then, everyone was flying around in ships that meant that it took months to get from place to place. They couldn't use supercruise. It wasn't the hyperspace jump that was the problem, it was supercruise. They actually had to fly to, you know, can you imagine doing Hutton Orbital without being able to go faster than 1C?
Have fun! There goes your week.
Seriously, can you imagine doing that trip at a maximum of 97.5C, I think it is?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Right?
Yeah.
And so obviously, where that technology's come in, that's changed the Elite Galaxy. It really has.
So yeah, right. So
and a lot of what's happened is because of that. Sorry. So that's beaten that horse, I think.
Yeah, that's
I think
that's
we beat
engineering.
The horse
Essentially, a hole dug by devs themselves, and now they can't really get out of it, unfortunately, properly.
Next, one of my favourite and at the same time least favourite patches all at the same time. 2.2, the Guardians.
Since I did the last one, you go for it.
Okay, so 2.2 the Guardians introduced quite a lot of stuff. In particular... Oh, I'm really sorry, I'm about to sneeze. 1 second.
Don't die on me there! Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, sorry about that. I really do apologise, everybody. I'm so sorry.
I was about to declare you dead.
No, I'm not dead. I'm not dead. Right, so, first of all, it introduced the passenger missions, tourism missions, all of that sort of thing. As well as that, Yuri Grom, the winner of the Rise to Power competition, was introduced as a new power play leader. And then, obviously, we got the Guardian ruins were put in at that point, and the Guardian missions, and all of that sort of stuff. Passengers, tourism, the lore beacons that came with them, some of my favourite stuff that's ever come into Elite Dangerous. Utterly, utterly adored it. Also, we got the new station interiors, which was a lovely thing as well. They put a load of the CQC assets into the game. They allowed... they introduced the Beluga, the ship-launched fighters, obviously. The fact that you could hire NPCs. Loads and loads of stuff that was utterly amazing. Like, really, really utterly amazing. Persistent POIs were the first things. The first of the Thargoid stuff and other things under the title of Mysterious Things, which was the Guardian Ruins.
It was always in the game, you didn't find it though.
Well, no, the Guardian Ruins were put in at that point.
Yeah, just making fun of it at this point.
Now, I'm going to talk about the worst part of 2.2. The Guardian Ruins.
Okay, do tell.
The Guardian Ruins were the worst moment for me in Elite history in most ways. I despise the way the Guardian mission works. This is very much a personal thing, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and please feel free
I personally like the idea behind it.
You love it. Yeah, this is one where you and I disagree at a core, fundamental
It's a horrible
level.
mission. That's regardless. It's a horrible mission. I just like it for a bit different reasons. That's the thing. I see a potential in it. That's oddly.
I see the potential in it as well, and where you look at that potential and go, "Oh, that'd be lovely," I look at that potential and go, please don't do that. Please no. And I don't want Frontier to turn Elite Dangerous into an MMORPG. And the Guardian's mission is an MMORPG mission. One of the things that I adore about Elite Dangerous is that it works in real time. Every day is a day. If you are not there at an event, you aren't there. So when they put in a mission that... And to be honest, even with some slight structural changes, this could be fixed. But when they put in a mission that treats you as the hero in a game that goes out of its way to say to you, you aren't the hero, it's A, jarring, and B, not the path that personally I want Elite to go down. Now, I'm not saying that my opinion is correct here, yeah? But what I am saying is that personally, I don't want that, and I don't think it's the way they should be trying to tell a story. I don't think it's the way they should be trying to add content to the game. I don't like that. No, it is an MMO, Usopp. No denying that. Elite is an MMO. Not arguing with that whatsoever.
I changed
Yamiks
DJ's
and I
mind
actually
on that.
had... Well, no, it's not. It's that I'm very lazy, and if I do it, please forgive me. I'm very lazy, and quite often I use the term MMO to refer to an MMORPG. They are different things. This is an MMO. It is a massively multiplayer online game. No denying that. It isn't an MMORPG, and it shouldn't be an MMORPG. And I worry about it becoming one.
The question from my side is...
Hang on, Commander Peanut Pete. I adore the story that came out of the Guardians. Don't misunderstand me. This is a very weird situation where I loved what came out of it. The lore that came out of it, the story that came out of it was wonderful. How they executed it, I really didn't like.
So, the question from my side in that case is, as I mentioned before, so you're against a basically self-contained little story,
if it treats you as the hero.
A self-contained story with a mission.
If it treats you as the hero and everyone can do it, yes, I have.
You're asked to go and kill, 10 boars, whatnot else. And in the meantime, it tells the story of the forest. That's a bad thing.
How would you do that without having everyone playing through the same mission?
What's bad about that?
Why would it?
What's bad about everyone getting the same mission with the same story?
Because that, for me, again, that's not Elite. There are plenty of games where that is true, and that's fine. But that isn't Elite. Elite is not about me talking to everyone going, oh, have you done this new mission that we've all done that's got exactly the same stuff in it? Elite is about the fact that you have your own stories. Yeah? That there is a galaxy there, and you go out and do what you want. And that, for me, is its strength. Now, again, I'm not saying that I am correct, yeah? This is all very much my opinion. Not saying that it should be like this, because I don't believe that the game should be developed just for me. It shouldn't be developed just for any one individual. It should be developed for the audience, which is all of us. And so everyone's opinion is valid. Everyone's voice should be heard, if possible, as long as they're being sensible. Now, again, for me, that is the antithesis, and this is my core problem with it. The fact that everybody was doing the same stuff stole from what it was for me. It really, really was. That stole something from what Elite is for me. But again, this is for me, not for everyone. And I understand entirely what Yamiks says when he's like, but I love the idea of that there could be stories that explain, and you know, people in your chat and mine have said it, stories that explain about lore and backstory and all of that sort of stuff. And I get it, I do, and it's a really weird thing where it's, I love the Elite has the freedom to do as you choose. That's fairly obvious. I don't want it to be something where we all do the same stuff. But on the other side of it, my God, it's easy to tell a story where you guys, where you know, there is a path that you follow, and much easier. It's so much easier to introduce all of the great stuff, and there is so much good lore and story around Elite. It is so much easier to introduce all of that through an ongoing narrative that is, you know, almost linear. Not necessarily completely so, but, you know, almost linear, a standard computer game narrative.
Oh,
right?
God. Okay.
It's so much easier to tell a story that way. There's no denial, is there? But, for me, that's not what I love about Elite Dangerous. Again, for me. Yamiks disagrees entirely, and now he's going to tell you what he thinks.
So here's an example for a mission. Let's say, alright, so you are hired as a park guide. Let imagine an example for in this game as a passenger, you know, courier thingamajig, just passenger liner, pilot or guide or whatever else, which you are. And you are asked to basically, you know, haul these meat bags from one place to another while telling them about these systems and so on and so forth. So you learn a little bit of story, which actually you do already in the game, and everyone can do these exact same missions. And you know, there are park rangers and guides that are being trained. And you're saying that it's a bad thing, are you now, or are you not? That everyone gets the same mission and gets to, you know, learn things about the game in the same way.
I get what, like, the way that I would structure that, if it was something that they were determined to do, the way I would structure that would be through a tutorial section that was Pilots Federation training.
That's a whole different thing. The point was, now, basically...
That's how I would introduce lore and story and stuff like that. I wouldn't do it, because then it makes sense. This is the problem. Like, with the... Okay, here, let me give you a counter example. With the one that they did, the Ramtar thing. If that had been written so that collectively all of the information being acquired was going into a database, and essentially it was a community goal. Enough data gets gathered, we get another bit of lore. Yeah?
Oh, not a CG. That's basically CG. Holy shit.
No, just yeah, I know.
But okay, yeah,
please, you get my point, right?
Yeah.
From that perspective, all of a sudden you remove that disconnect, right? And it's that disconnect that's my problem. And let's be honest, this game does go out of its way to say to you that you are a grain of sand.
But even a grain of sand, you know...
Turgeon, you've brought up a great thing. You really have, about how we are a member of an elite. Absolutely. The Pilots Federation is an elite. There is no denying that. By the time you get to the point of owning your own spaceship, you are in an elite. No denial whatsoever. But that elite, in real terms, is huge. There are tens of millions of commanders. Literally tens of millions, if not hundreds, out there. And you're just one of them. And each of us individually aren't special. We aren't... There's nothing particularly... You know, we're not the chosen one, as you quite often are in this kind of game. And... yeah, it goes out of its way to say that to you. And then... there are literally as many commanders as there are players. No, absolutely not, Turgeon. The NPCs are commanders. They are members of the Pilots Federation. The commander distinction is only there to distinguish human players from NPCs. That's the only reason the commander is there. Everybody that they are members of the Pilots Federation as well. That's why Pilots Federation bounties apply to them. Why they can collect on Pilots Federation bounties. All of that sort of thing. Yeah. So they're all commanders. Whether or not that little text to distinction is literally there to distinguish players from NPCs so that we know who's who. It's not like they are members of the Pilots Federation. Absolutely they are members of the Pilots Federation.
Right. That's about it. I guess so. Okay, to continue, I guess. Yeah, I quickly went over the 2.2 changes, and yeah, basically from games perspective, you know, what changed was basically Beluga liner and ship launch fighters were introduced. So there's that. Also, remember Beluga, Dolphin, Type 10, and Chieftain are Horizons exclusives.
Yeah.
Just remember that. What else? I guess that's about it on that side. Personally, now, the way I saw 2.2 was a failure, a big failure, quite honestly. Now, the update itself didn't really introduce too much, you know, in it itself, but the fact that 2.2 introduced Guardians, and the mission that was basically named after the whole update was not completable, or rather just broken, was a massive failure in my eyes. The fact is, the update is called Guardians. Oh, and the main thing that happens in it is broken, so you can't do it. Was, again, until 2.3, it wasn't fixed. You couldn't finish it. I remember that very well. I did a 16-hour stream straight. I remember that really well. I tried finishing it and I couldn't. Until 2.3 came out. So, again, you introduce something new and it's completely broken. That simply just showcased me either incompetence or a bit of everything, honestly. That was a disappointment, at least for me, and that's how I really saw it. So that's me, of course. When it comes to story, it had nice idea, it was horribly executed, and worst of all, it just signified just incompetence. So, yeah. So, I don't know, DJ, anything else you want to say about...
the ship launch fighters were amazing.
It was a nice little...
I love the ship. Yeah, I love the ship launch fighters.
It was a nice little addition, that's for sure.
They're not game-changing, but they're lovely. Yes. They really are. the ship launch fighters were beautiful. The models on them are lovely. The controls on them, the fact that they are distinctly different in the, you get into a fighter, it feels different to any of the other ships.
It's just basically an eagle with even more maneuverability for me, but okay.
Well, yeah. And so, they do feel different. They feel more lightweight, they feel more maneuverable. Doing things like, in the combat with the, what's it called? When you fight the Thargoids and you're using the axe Taipan, and you've got a big group of people weaving through the big ships as you're fighting and stuff like that. It is wonderful fun. It really is.
Usually the cunts that are piloting my ship launch fighters are usually just complete fucking idiots and die immediately as soon as I launch them. But then again, I'm talking about NPCs, so fuck them all.
See, what I do is I tend to leave my Anaconda back. Once the missiles have done their work, I'll leave my Anaconda back and tell it to stay out of the fight. And fly in with the Taipan and use the axe cannons on the Taipan.
See, I have
obviously
no
the Anaconda
trust
hasn't
in
got
those NPCs for me. I absolutely trust no fucking asshole to, especially the one that barely can survive with a fighter, to pilot my high grade ship. No, thank you. No. But yeah. So yeah, ship launch fighters, and so are we moving on?
There wasn't anything else we missed, is there?
No, really. The Guardian stuff, new ships, and the launcher and the ship itself.
It should be pointed out, actually. Oh, sorry. It should be pointed out that they have also been, throughout these patches, they've been adding in the voice tutorials, which we haven't mentioned, but they are a lovely little addition, it has to be said. So,
they are
in this
so
one, they did the
minimal
SRV
that,
and the SLF.
I, for example, completely forgot, so yeah.
They're minimal to us, but to a new player, they really aren't. The tutorials now are so much better. They honestly are.
They could be a lot more, as you yourself said, so yeah. Well, that's, again, for future, so...
Yeah.
Right.
What's next?
2.3.
Your turn, isn't it? 2.3.
Oh god, it's 2.3, and that's Commanders. Oh, this was just wonderful. Right, so, 2.3, the Commanders. I'm skipping this first. So Hollow Me. Honestly, I expected Hollow Me. Hollow Me, to this day, I haven't created my own Hollow Me because what's the point? Because this feature really probably should have come out with space legs, but fuck it. I guess we're adding bits and pieces before getting everything together. So there's that. Really. As it is, Hollow Me is just another microtransaction drain for me. As I look at it, I'm cynical, and that's what really it is. Really, it's a vanity thing. That's all it is. And DJ has a lot of other things that he can say, but I don't give a fuck. The way things are delivered to me, that's how I see them, and will say. The next thing is megaships. I see. Okay, asteroid bases. Okay, that's kind of nice. New ship Dolphin also. And let's see. Yeah, and the biggest change for me on the good side was a massive thanks to developers who worked on Camera Suite. Oh yes, the new camera was absolutely wonderful to use, and I just absolutely love it. Though it could use a little bit more work here and there, but of course you can't expect all the things to come together, so the amount we have is nice to have. So yeah.
It's interesting that the most useful feature from this patch is undeniably the camera, isn't it?
Yeah, that's potentially the smallest thing, aside from Dolphin and perhaps megaships, I guess. Oh wait, no, megaships actually had a big purpose in asteroid bases and Dolphin. Basically, those are the smallest things, but Camera Suite also, from feature-wise, the smallest thing and yet the most useful and most pleasant. And finally, there was the multicrew. To this day, multicrew is not used almost by anyone. Actually, you can right now yourselves go in game in open and try. Probably if you try, somebody will open, because you know I'm saying this right now, and somebody will open something for multi-crew. But point is, there is just on normal day, on random day, there might be just maybe 1 to 2 people using multi-crew, and that's just a simple, easy way to judge the feature itself as how it has turned out. Personally, as I saw multi-crew, it was, yeah, okay, it has something interesting in it, but how broken it is, how unreliable it is, and how rushed and unfinished, how just a big pile of shit and mess it was, and it is still. I have no hopes for it, really. Yeah. It signified multiple things for me when it comes to elite developers. The first thing that I noticed because of the multi-crew was that devs are forced to work on a schedule, a really tight schedule, that apparently dictates that if a feature is in barely workable working state, it will still be pushed out because schedule dictates that it should be. And devs are willing to push it out. That was, yeah. And I completely understand that from programming perspective, it's a hard thing to make, and so on and so forth. Also, you must realize that multi-crew basically is piggybacking on the wing system, and that's why also you can't have wing within or multi-crew with a wing, and so on and so forth. Also, SRV in the multi-crew is not possible because reasons X, Y, and Z. Yeah, the point is, multi-crew was or is still a big mess, and the thing is, as the longer it stays in such broken state, the less hope I have for it to be ever good. And devs at this point haven't mentioned anything about multi-crew as far as I can recall, and highly doubt it will be fixed this year at all. That's my pessimistic view on it. It's a piece of shit. The update itself signified horrible things about the team, the way they worked, or they were forced to work, and decisions made about the update itself. So yeah, while engineering was probably the most game-breaking side of the game, this was, yeah, just a depressing deluge of just diarrhea. So there you go. That's my look on it.
So I'm now going to jump in here as someone with a total playtime in multi-crew of 4 days, 18 hours and 13 minutes.
Let's see how much I have.
And cheer multi-crew on a little bit.
Oh, how dare you.
Multi-crew isn't good enough. I want to start by saying that, right? Hyperspace jumps are basically impossible. It's a 50-50 chance whether or not you'll pop out of a hyperspace jump with the person in multi-crew still in multi-crew.
Total time 12 hours, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Once you get into an instance with someone, and you know, the main usage for multi-crew is undeniably combat. Once you get into
no, the only thing that worked,
yeah, is combat. If you go into an instance, once you're in there, the multi-crew will function smoothly, completely fine. I've never had any drops when actually in an instance. And it's really good fun. Also, as a side note, a really good way to get players that are just starting out to grips with combat quite easily without having them risk anything is to jump them into multi-crew and let them go and play around the ship.
I would highly advise against using multi-crew as a new player introduction to the game. I highly advise against it.
I do it quite a lot. Works really well.
I wouldn't like my friends' first enjoyment of the game be half half working broken piece of shit that is rushed out. So that's my
jump
view
into
on it,
you just don't invite them in until you're in a Haz-Res or a what's it called? Beacon. And then you drop them out in a ship launch. You invite them in once you're in there. You drop them out in a ship launch fighter, and they have a barrel of a laugh.
If it works. Anyway,
and so I do use it a lot, but again, seriously, what you do is you get into the instance you're going to be using, then you invite the person in. Yeah, that's how you make it work. And the fact that you have to use that workaround and that you can't do things with, like, jumping around and all of that sort of thing. Yeah. Doesn't really work. The other thing it is useful for is sometimes people will find something. I've used it for streams quite a lot where new things have been found. Someone gets there very quickly.
For exploration side,
into
in
a multi-crew.
Yeah. Come see what I found. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yep. It is a useful feature, but it is in nowhere near a good enough state at all. I agree with the core of what Yamiks is saying. I honestly do. But on the other side of it, I do use it a lot. I do really enjoy multi-crew. So I have to defend it somewhat, because it is a feature I use a lot. It is a feature I enjoy. But, you know, nothing's perfect. And my god, multi-crew's anything but perfect. And if they fixed it, it could be, you know, something that really, really stuck out about Elite Dangerous. And it's that's a shame. The other stuff introduced in the update, personally, I really like. The camera suite, obviously, is amazing. The Hollow Me, I'm a big fan of. I like that we can have our own little dude or dudette and make them look like what we want. Pretty happy with that. The megaships, cool.
DJ is projecting himself as a proper human being there.
Wow.
For once.
And I like the asteroid bases, obviously. They're fucking
they're
wicked.
nice, they're nice, but a bit more variation would be nice.
Also, something that's not really included in these patch notes was also the point where the first voice logs went in, weren't they?
Megaships, yeah, I think so. With megaships, that is
yeah,
definitely that was the first time.
Yeah. So this was when we heard the first voice acting in Elite Dangerous, and as with everything sound. Like, let's be honest, the one thing that no one ever says anything bad about in Elite Dangerous is sound. All of the music, the sound design, voice acting, yeah, it's all brilliant, isn't it? And the voice acting in the Zerara and all of that was no exception. You know, first time I heard those voices, it was, again, one of those moments that you remember, you know? It's pretty damned awesome. Turgeon, the camera suite and the Hollow Me are still your favourite parts of the game. Yeah, I think I've got several people, when you brought it up, Spider in my chat immediately said, Hollow Me is one of my favourite features.
Somebody says Elite has sound. Man,
wow.
Currently the sound is going on. And the music is, again, of course I constantly whine about the fact that the Elite has very super serious things for serious people, for serious things, and so on and so forth. Nonetheless, the level of sound design there is wonderful, so listen in, hopefully a little bit.
Also, if you use a headset, definitely recommend putting night mode on to really hear some of the rather awesome sound effects and stuff. It's good. But yeah, I think 2.3 was a mixed bag.
2.3 was no, fair. It wasn't a mixed bag. It was basically a bag of shit.
No, it wasn't.
Shit and diseases.
Multi-crew was pretty terrible. Everything else they added was pretty awesome. It was a mixed bag.
There's very few things to go wrong, at least as far as I can see. The camera suite, it had some problems, but
no,
overall,
the camera suite is awesome. Yeah, the asteroid bases are pretty awesome. The megaships are pretty awesome. Yeah,
again,
it's a mixed bag.
But again, the headliner
it's not perfect.
Just fails horribly. Headliner horribly fails.
Would you say then that the headline, you'd say multi-crew is the headline?
Multi-crew is the biggest one. Hollow Me was just basically cosmetic side, so yeah.
Again, it's, you know, the main feature. It's a bit like when we're looking at the engineers, isn't it? The main feature, like, yeah, the main feature isn't that great, but a lot of the other stuff they brought in really is. Same as CQC.
Yeah.
And then we move on to 2.4.
Oh boy, so you take it since, yeah, I took the last one.
So, the return added the fewest in way of real features.
Features.
So, there was the new Pilots Federation bounty, the ship rebuy penalty for PvP murders, inbox was revamped, the chained missions started, hull and canopy repair limpets were added. That was a lovely little, nice little touch, that one. That was a useful one. Bit more use of the rebuy screens that you could sell stored ships to pay rebuy and not lose your main ship. For me, the biggest thing they added, 20,000 light year route plotting.
Oh yes, that for me.
And the new filters. Yep.
That for me was in beta. Basically, I was just putting in. But let's see how the story went. Ah, right, there we go. So basically, yeah, the beta comes out. I read the patch notes and so on and so forth. Here's the thing: I often have this over-exaggerated expectation as to what devs were to, you know, whenever they would bring out something, I would expect it to be, you know, over-exaggeratedly good or something like that. And when it came to route planning, as my personal expectation, you know, we knew more or less that the route planning were to be extended to some degree in the future. So my first expectation was, okay, 5,000 should be sort of, you know, a really good mark, and that would be really good to have, really good. That was my just super best case scenario. They brought out 20,000 and I was just gobsmacked. It was amazing. And again, unfortunately, in the Frontier Expo, as far as I asked the devs that I talked to, the guy that made that, or rather contributed the most to it, that 20 light year route planning, wasn't present. But yeah, if he or she, I presume it's he, were there, I would definitely hug the guy, because it was more than I ever expected. It was fucking amazing. And once I tried it in beta, it was just, no, I'm not hyped about this. I'm just happy. It's one of those things when my best expectation is overshot by so much and so well. It's just, oh, that's just super.
Yeah.
So that really was the overshadowing thing for me. Everything else was
I agree. Yeah, I agree. There was loads of little things added, and that one just stood out so far above everything else. Apart from, obviously, the Thargoids and the destroyed stations and all of that stuff that happened throughout 2.4. And the Thargoids, it can be argued quite easily that the plot has not progressed quick enough. And I agree. But, nonetheless, it's been a fascinating plot. And a fascinating story to watch unfold.
It's so slowly dribbled out, and that's the curse of MMOs. It's just slowly dribbled out. And it just...
Well, you either do that or you dump a huge load of story at once, and then everyone plays it in 5 minutes, and then complains that there's no
Unfortunately,
new story.
the Thargoid thing has just been disappointment after disappointment, so yeah.
I see, no, I have, like, fighting them is really good fun. It does feel almost like a boss fight in Elite Dangerous, you know?
It's definitely a good challenge. It's a nice challenge, but yeah.
I'm looking
once you see
forward
it once,
to see...
twice, and so on and so forth, it just gets boring over time.
I'm looking forward, but again, curse of MMO, right?
Yeah,
the new enemies are fun for the first little while, and then you get used to how to kill them, and yeah. I've enjoyed it. It's been interesting. I think that it's quite telling that 2.4, if you compare, and I know we're not talking about Beyond tonight, but if you compare 2.4 to Beyond 1, Beyond 1's quite a bigger thing, isn't it? Let's be honest.
That's the thing, Return really didn't had anything. It had basically...
It was the Thargoids, that was the big thing.
2.4 basically had a list of quality improvements and nothing other than that, really.
Well, yeah, because of the mysterious and exciting things added, which obviously were the Thargoids.
Okay,
yeah.
2.4. As soon as it dropped, here's the thing. I already expected, yeah, okay, anti-Thargoid weaponry is coming. And how is it gonna be implemented in the game? It's gonna be implemented through CG. I didn't expect 4 or 5 of them. Fuck me, that's lazy. Simple as that.
They were also complete bullshit from a story perspective, but that's a different matter.
I'm looking from the gameplay, first of all.
Yeah, no, and you know me, I'll always look at it from the story. And from the story perspective, they were bullshit as well. The good news is the backlash to those CGs seem to have made Frontier realise that they've overutilised that feature a bit, maybe. Again,
more than after a year, they realized that. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, well, yeah, but their player numbers were telling them that people were using them plenty still.
That's the thing. Players can use that a lot, but doesn't mean that it's nice and good. Those are two different things.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and Type 10. Oh, of course, Type 10 comes out, and fuck me.
Oh, yeah, the Type 10. Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna even talk about that. Fuck that.
I really like it. Just to be contrary to you. I really like it.
DJ can talk. Fuck it, I'm off, basically.
Well, no, I like it just from, again, it's a story thing, yeah? This Thargoid thing's happening. They need a frontline battle weapon ASAP, yeah? So they take a chip and they lump it full of armor and they send it off to fight. Makes sense to me. And then later, a little later, we get the Chieftain, where the Chieftain comes in and the Chieftain is actually developed for it. So from that side of things, I do really like it.
It's the stupidest thing ever. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say.
What, the Type 10?
Yes. It's the stupidest ship ever.
Turning circle of a container ship.
It's the stupidest thing ever.
I like it again, but I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Type 9, so that's probably another reason why I quite like it. I like the idea of a beefed up Type 9, I really do. So also, I love the engine design, like the aesthetic design of it. I think it's a lovely looking ship, which isn't true of all of the ships they've introduced. You know, you look at, and I think it's also more useful than a lot of the ships that they've introduced. You know, look at the Viper 4, look at the Cobra 4. Yeah, there are ships they have introduced that are pretty much useless, right? At least the Type 10 isn't useless.
Sure, yeah, from usefulness side, well, for a little while it was actually a lot more effective than Type 9 was on pretty much everything, really. Just because of the jump range.
Yeah. But as an ending to Horizons, even I will say, now that it's finished, you know, 2.4 is over, I'm just going to let you react to that.
It's fine. It's fine. Carry on.
You sure?
We said no alerts. Go.
Okay.
I have time.
Okay.
And you're peeking, by the way.
Sorry, I apologise. Because of the Type 10 and everything else, and looking back over 2.4 with the Type 10, the Guardians, the story that came out with it, 2.4 was a pretty damp ending to Horizons. Like, overall, Horizons was pretty good. Like, in fact, it wasn't pretty good. Overall, when you look at where the game was by the end of 2.4 compared to pre 2.0, it is a massively improved game. It's very difficult to argue that Horizons isn't good value for money.
No, actually, okay, so Horizons, just because of the engineers, it's absolutely worth it, because, well, rather, because of planetary landings and because of engineering. Those two things immediately made the whole expansion worth it, because for people in PvP, that's it. You just can't go aside. You need Horizons if you want to be PvP competitive. That's it. That's it. You just simply need the fucking Horizons if you want to be competitive with PvP. The same thing when it comes down to long distance traveling, exploring. You just simply need that extra FSD boost. For trading, that's really probably the only thing that doesn't require, you know, engineering almost at all, unless again you really want that FSD as well. So yeah, and planetary landings. Also, a lot of, you know, money trains and things like those happen on planetary missions and so on and so forth. So you also need that if you want to alleviate a lot of grind. And yeah, so it's just because of the fact that the more broken parts, more useful parts are basically in Horizons. You have to get it. Unfortunately, that's the side of it, but. When it comes down to gameplay itself, planets, not much to do on them. Right now, of course, we have, you know, different looking planets and what else, but that will wear off sooner or later. That's for sure. So,
I think there's a lot more to do on them than there was at launch. In defense of dev on that.
Sure, but even so, that's the thing. This game so heavily relies on randomly generated stuff. It's just everything's the same. Again, you're talking about not being the hero, but this is basically the opposite, just opposite direction.
I get what you mean.
It's so disgustingly bland and just homogeneous. It's fucking boring.
Oh, I agree. One of the things that I would desperately love to see is a lot more variation in starport design.
That's why you need handcrafted stuff like Guardian missions. But proper fucking missions.
Yeah, again,
proper fucking missions, that is.
Yeah, and again, that mission, if you rewrote it slightly, and that, I guess, is my biggest problem with it, yeah? If you rewrite that mission ever so slightly, and make it that it is a combined effort of all of the commanders getting this data together, all of my complaints fly out the window. So it's not so much the structure of those missions as how you write them. You can't write them so that the person who's going through it is the hero. Unless you craft a mission and then only let one person play through it, which isn't a good idea. And yeah, 2.4 was, as I say, a damp way to end. But overall,
yeah, 2.4.
Horizons was pretty amazing. And when you add in, let's be honest, when you add in that there are going to be a series of features that are Horizons exclusive throughout Beyond, which you're also getting included essentially in the price of Horizons, Horizons is...
As an expansion right now, yeah, it honestly...
pretty good value for money,
after
2.2,
that, not 2.2, but after Engineers 2.1, it became worth it, as I said. It just simply became worth it as an expansion.
Agreed.
So that's my take on it already. At that point, you could have, you know, bought the thing, and Speaking of which, I mean, you know, on sale, the base game goes for fucking $7 if I remember. And yeah, I mean,
I did notice
fuck.
your recent video
What?
about Elite going free to play.
Ah,
Like the
yes,
idea of
that
putting
was
the
an
base game
interesting
on
little
free to play.
thing.
Well, yeah, that was an interest. I can hear your smirk. I was
Oh, yeah.
talking to you about that at Frontier Expo, about the fact that I wondered if that was something they were going to announce that day.
Why not put base game as free to play?
It makes sense, right? It makes so much sense.
And
really
for people
does.
saying, oh, the price premium will keep, you know, the scrub pubs away. Okay, I guess, sure. But still...
I'd rather more people get to find out about Elite and play it.
And
give
besides,
Frontier
this game
more
is
budget
fucking
to develop
already
the game better.
just deep dicking the microtransaction train, so it would, at least at that point, I wouldn't have too much to, you know, complain about if, you know, they went free to play on the base game. Microtransactions will still, you know, be a bigger influx of money than just the base game's purchase. I shit you not, because here's the thing. One Kovas, or, well, yeah, one Kovas voice pack costs the same as this game, the base game, on sale.
Yeah.
Think about that. Microtransactions are horribly overpriced.
I would disagree.
$7 for fucking Kovas. Oh wait, no.
No.
£1
I said
pound.
other than the Kovas. No, other.
Okay,
than the
£1
Kovas.
for the face
I
paint.
will agree with you about the Kovas.
Yeah,
it's a quid. It's a quid. What's a pound?
That's stupid.
What's a pound?
Okay,
Seriously,
£1. Okay, so you get seven face paints for this game's base game itself. No, just no. Anyways, that's a different topic for a different time. Again,
I was about to say we can have this row another month, can't we?
I know, right? No, okay, to recap on my side. So first things first, 2.0, really good, rather impressive extension of the game. The planetary stuff brings out the nerd in me, and kinda did show up the Star Citizen quite heavily. And then 2.1 was the game-breaking update with engineers, so it's horrible and good at the same time, because of, well, obvious things. 2.2 was a massive failure in a lot of sides, and 2.3 was also a even massiver fail, or rather continuing the massive fail train. And 2.4 was a fart in the wind, as the best I can describe it, really. It was okay. It was okay, but nothing more, really. It basically, yeah, it took good things and made them mundane, and yeah. Not the best thing to do, really. Yeah, it started really well and then just broke its jaw by falling on the floor and got back up, dusted itself, and was kinda okay. That's how I see Horizons as a whole. DJ?
Do you see Horizons overall as okay?
It started well. It massively failed in the middle and then ended in the middle, basically. So, yeah.
Interesting. I think when taken in balance, and looking at all of the stuff that has been added in Horizons, and looking at the game, looking back pre-Horizons, the amount of changes that have happened over the last 2 years, the amount of updates that have gone in, the amount this game has moved on, is slightly incredible. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but seriously, looking back over this list and looking at how much has gone into the game over this time, how much has been changed, the fact that during this time they've also done the Xbox sorry, they've done the PlayStation release, the Xbox release.
This
was
is not the only game that did that.
Yeah.
PlanetSide also managed to do quite impressive stuff in its time, so...
Oh, I'm not saying
that's not really a valid thing.
I'm not saying it's unique, but it is impressive. There are plenty of games that don't, let's be honest. And there are plenty of games, like there are plenty of MMOs where you can buy expansions that don't have the amount of content and the amount of improvements that Horizons has delivered. That being said, yeah, no, there are definitely problems that have been introduced throughout Horizons that haven't been addressed yet. Some of them have. The new engineering updates for me, and we'll see over time. Like, this is something that we're going to have to watch. But for me, I think the engineers update is massive. Crime and Punishment will be interesting. And the Beyond series looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff that we should be pretty tentatively excited about. Yeah,
well,
it's...
Yeah, and Beyond, honestly, okay, so for the future, personally... one thing I want to see is, again, as I said, just basically a balanced pass on engineering. That's the much needed thing. Of course, I really need to see also the multi-crew being either fixed or at least fixed in the state it is right now. If maybe not, you know, added SRV, wings, and multi-crew combined as well. You know, the things that you would expect on, of course, probably were already planned in the whole feature itself, so being developed. But other than that, really, again, I'm one of those people that stopped caring about, you know, what could be, and rather focusing on what is, and judging things as they are, and not believing any single you know, hype piece that there is. And if there are, kill it with prejudice. So, yeah. Just be happy about new things that come out, and if they don't, well, you're not disappointed at least. You haven't been, you know, hyped up. That's at least how I approach these things these days. But that's because PlanetSide and other games have, you know, basically withered me down to a cynical, angry, sardonic, and whatnot else person as I am today. So yeah.
Bless you.
Thanks, gaming.
Bless your cottons. It'll be alright, Yamiks.
Of course
It'll be okay.
Of course it will be.
But no, I certainly, like, I feel like I got my money's worth. And I mean, I bought Horizons, like you, when it came out.
This is one of the games that is worth it, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though there's a lot of grind, you know, fine.
It's not perfect by any stretch, but you're going to get a lot more from this game than most games at its price mark. Like, its price mark, let's be honest.
It certainly has plenty of content in it, even though people that, you know, heard me say that would say, content, you're shitting me, right? No, there is content to look at and enjoy and at least try. Up until you get to Asp Explorer and then you start grinding. But, you know, at least those first 50 hours ought to be just fine.
Yeah.
And for, what, on sale you get the game for $20?
It's not bad, really, is it?
Yeah! On sale, I recommend everyone just get it, if you can. Or something. So, there's that.
So, I think we're at the end of our first ever official episode of DJ and Yamiks Argue About Things.
Something. We don't even know how to name this.
We need to come up with a snappy name for this,
yeah,
for fuck's sake. So, for those
boy.
that don't know, this is something we're going to be doing on the first Friday of each month. Yamiks
Probably,
and I are going to get together.
More or less.
Yeah, that's the plan. Obviously, some things will get in the way of it, but the aim is first Friday of each month. We're going to sort of sit around and find something to discuss and have a bit of a chat about it. We are looking for a snappier name than Yamiks and DJ, which is what it's currently called.
Yep.
So yeah, if you can think of any of those, do let us know. But yeah, we'll be doing this again next month. Although, hang on, let me just look at dates. So Yamiks, I think the next month we probably could do this still, but
we'll see. Again, I don't.
We're
announce
gonna be
things
in Boston.
DJ. I
Yeah.
don't announce things unless they are completely finalized. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's my shtick.
I'm going to be in Boston. So yes, that might be slightly more awkward. So we'll work
fuck it.
that out.
We'll figure out. Maybe we'll do
Yeah.
it in the end of the month, or who knows.
Yeah, we will work something out.
Oh, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
What
Well,
else?
I'm gonna let you do.
Yeah,
do
I'll
your
probably
thing.
end. I still kind of want to make one video for tomorrow real quick, and probably so on and so forth. So yeah.
I'm gonna be talking about the new Guardian law, because
Oh boy, yeah, right. So there are new Guardian stuff.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
yeah, spoilers. There's new Guardian stuff, and oh my god. Ha.
What now? Where?
Oh.
What?
Oh, okay. So, well, just new law. I wasn't right. Interesting. That I was wrong about.
Is there
Wow.
now?
Okay. Meta alloys. Thargoids have been using them since before the Guardians.
Aren't meta alloys like Targoid creation?
Yep.
So yeah.
This
what's-
new stuff is amazing. Seriously,
I see,
this new
okay.
stuff is amazing.
essentially some new stuff from Guardians. So there we go.
Yep. And so that's what we're going to be going through on my stream. So I'm going to bugger off, Yamiks.
Yes, indeed. So that was
Thank
DJ.
you so much.
And I
It's
am
been a pleasure.
Yamiks. So
Yeah.
thanks for
This has
joining
been
in.
great
and,
fun.
Yeah,
We'll speak
we'll see
soon.
each other some other time next month or so.
No worries, man.
User left your channel.
And
Sound muted.
that would be it on this part as well. Almost destroyed my ship during this whole fucking thing, because, you know, I land Cancun. Yeah, I've been quite tired, and here's the thing. I did mention that I would be releasing the Chieftain review, right? Chieftain review tomorrow, but as it happened, there was something that I came across that could be more useful than that. So, I'll be probably going off and quickly putting a video together. It's not too hard to do, it won't be too long as well. And probably tomorrow you'll be able to see, unless I fuck up, and then definitely Chieftain will be coming out. Anyways, in case that doesn't happen, Chieftain review. Chieftain review is coming next Tuesday, so expect that, and stop asking me that fucking question. There you go. Next Tuesday, latest for Chieftain review. Fastest again tomorrow, but I have some other thing planned. Anyways, thanks for watching, and well, to everyone during the stream, tossing a couple of bits and pieces, or even massive bricks of gold at my little ass. Yeah, massive thanks to all of you, and without your help this probably wouldn't happen as a real thing. Anyways, yeah, I'm kind of high on coffee a little bit, so I need to use that time while I have. I'll be going off then, and I'll see you then on let's see, streaming. Since I'm not streaming Saturday, Sunday, or I will, I'm not sure which one I'll do, but expect not this weekend. I'll be streaming on probably Wednesday, Friday, and something else. Saturday, Sunday, one of those days. Anyways, thanks for watching, fellas, and I'll be seeing you then next week. Just keep your eyes open for, you know, announcements or something like that. Yeah, have a nice night or morning or evening, wherever you are, and enjoy the weekend.